Okay, well, yeah, thanks everybody for joining us today. So we've got staff from a couple of entities involved, so we'll be a little bit generic today about what we're doing, but the whole point of this is standardization and bringing everybody into the same system. So basically what we're talking about now and in the future will be uniform for everybody. Talking about what's been in the past is obviously different for each site and each entity. So basically this process, if I talk fast enough, we get through in about 45 minutes. If I go too fast, please ask questions or slow me down. If you've got any questions at the end, please let us know. There's always time afterwards, and of course you can always ask Keith or myself or any of the other IT guys after the meeting itself to clarify items. So the purpose of this meeting, this session, is to discuss the migration that's either happened for you or that will happen to you, and why we do it and what it involves, and the requirements on you and the requirements on us in that process. So basically this session is built around a particular KGD called the User Data Storage Policy KGD. There are a lot of KGDs inside Eurofins. I'm not sure how much exposure you've had to them. Some of them talk about particular business lines, some are finance, some are LIMS based, some are corporate governance. So they're generally for a specific audience. So the User Data Storage Policy is for every staff member of Eurofins. So as part of this migration process, we do ask you to read it and sign off a piece of paper saying yes, you understand it and you will abide by it. So the purpose of this session is to give you a brief understanding of what's in that document, understanding why we're doing what we're doing. So when you do come to read it, you can sort of skim through it and go, yep, I get that bit. Oh, yep, I don't have to worry about that bit, so I can skip over it. To try and make the process easier. This is not a get out of jail free card. We do need you to still read the KGD, even though we're talking about it now. But instead, it should make the process simpler. At the top of this email, which we do send to everybody at the start of the migration process, so most people should already have it, are a couple of hyperlinks to DMS documents. Some are KGDs, some are policy documents, some are Excel spreadsheets, and some are guide information, I guess. Most of them will touch on through this process. We'll sort of just refer to them. We don't really need to go in to have a look at them. The only one we will have a look at is the password policy, because that is fairly critical to security, and we need to make sure that's established globally, and it is short, so that is also helpful. So at your time, you feel free to have a look at those hyperlinks. If they don't work, let us know, but you're not required to read all of them except for the password policy and the user data storage policy. So basically what we're going to do is talk about two sections, your computer and your email, basically. The first section is what we're doing to your computer. So in the past, when we've been attached to our own business's domain and network and setup, it's all been managed by that particular business. If it was for NZ Labs, it had been managed by James and Keith for quite a few years. For AgriScience down in Australia, it would have been done by their IT consultants, KNet, or by yourselves if you're remote, or no one in particular. So we're trying to standardise all those, the way we manage PCs into the one umbrella. Standardisation obviously gives us efficiencies and economies of scale. The first thing on the computer you would have noticed, if you have been migrated already, is of course your login with your PID. If you haven't been migrated yet, that's the first change you'll notice. I know in NZ Labs, users were using PUIDs in the past, but they were local PUIDs. They weren't Eurofins Global, and sometimes they don't match. If you don't know what a PUID is, it's your personal user ID. It's the 4-character alphanumeric code that identifies you as a unique user in Eurofins. If you've been around long enough, then your PUID is based off your name, so it's often pronounceable. So mine's Heiko, H for, I don't know why, everybody in our region got a H, and then A for Andrew and CO for Cook. So I'm Heiko, so I'm easy to remember and easy to pronounce. Other people aren't as lucky, and certainly anybody who's joined us recently or had a PUID created in the last 6 months has just got a randomised PUID. For example, the new IT guys who's actually sitting in the meeting with me is, what's yours? ZQ92. Yeah, which makes no sense, and it makes it hard to remember, but certainly as your manager it's hard to remember everybody's PUIDs that way, but that's the way we've gone. So your login is your PUID. We'll come to the passwords in a minute. Once you're on the computer, so a couple of the biggest changes we've got now on your computer compared to the past is Eurofins is restricting the software that's on your computer to come from a set list of approved software. The set list is coming from what's called the IT Technology Roadmap, which is a big Excel spreadsheet that Eurofins headquarters maintains, and that spreadsheet is updated by what's called the Eurofins IT Technology and Architecture Council, which is ITAC, and they pretty much are the gatekeepers for new software into our environment. So the purpose of this is to make sure that we only have one version of software in use that does one job. So if you've got a PDF creator in Auckland and someone else has got a different PDF creator in Wellington and one's got a different one in Melbourne, then it makes it harder for us to support you. So ITAC has decided, okay, this particular PDF creator is the one we use. And we do that across all forms of software. Basically, if it's not on that roadmap, then it's not permitted. It's not as simply as black and white as that. If we come to migrate your computer and we find software on there that you need for your work, and it's not on the IT roadmap, we're not going to simply strip it off you and destroy your ability to do your work. We'll check your computer. If there's software that you need, we'll make an application with you to ITAC to have that software approved. And as long as we've got a good reason for it and there's not another software that's already approved that does the same job, we've never had a software knocked back. So when we started migrating, even our accounting software MyOb hadn't been approved, or our LIMS software hadn't been approved. That's all gone through now. So basically, most software would have already been approved that you're using. If not, then talk to us and we'll help. The approval process is fairly quick. If it's fairly simple software, it can be up to 1 or 2 days. If they come back and say, no, you can't have it, then we'll talk to you about why they've said why we can't have it, and we'll either come back to them with further arguments, or we'll give you the alternative solution that they talk about. For those of you with laptops and who live off their laptop, as I do, if you have games or personal software or other things like that, sorry, we have to say goodbye to that. So if it's not work software on a computer, that's a Eurofins computer, it has to go. There's no exceptions to that. So that's the requirements for when we migrate you. We do review your PC, and if there's anything on there that can't be on there, we get rid of. Anything that isn't approved, we work through approval. And that's all good and well, but there's no point in doing that if 5 minutes later you come back and you install your Call of Duty or your home software or whatever it is back on your computer. So a second restriction on your computer is that you aren't allowed to install software on your computer yourself anymore. And I understand that is an efficiency roadblock, but it's the only way that we can make sure that with the standardized environment we set up, it stays that way. So if there is software you need to install, you need to let us know, basically. If it's a software that we can deploy globally, we can push one button and it installs for you in the background. If it's specific software, you can download it and start the software installation process, but it'll come to a point where it asks for administrator level password to continue that process. That's when you have to contact us, and we'll dial into your computer and type in the password, and away we go. So yeah, the primary reason for that, or one of the reasons for that, is to help us keep our software environment standardized. The other fairly important reason for that is a lot of viruses install through application installation files. And if we put a block on that, then that means viruses don't install in your computer, which is obviously a good thing. So we're doing it for a standardization and management purpose, and also a fairly good security purpose. Knew anything about us, then it probably didn't matter that much if your password wasn't that strong. But now we're part of a global organization that is much more well known, which makes us more of a target for hackers. And it also means that there's a lot more to lose. If someone cracks into your account using a weak password, there's likelihood that they might be able to access systems that bring other entities or other countries or other regions or the entire company down. That'd be the very worst case scenario, but it's a possible scenario. So what we'll do is we'll have a quick look at the password policy, because that's what I'm pretty much going to be talking about. And there is only 7 pages of this, including some headers and stuff like that. So it's a pretty simple read. So basically, we'll go to the rules first, because they're the important part. So the password rules here are, and actually this is an old version of the KGD, so I need to find a link to the newer one. Passwords must have 10 characters at a minimum. If you try less than that, then it won't work. So it has to be at least 10. I wouldn't put much more than 10, because you end up typing an essay into your computer every time you log in. So try and keep it at 10 or 11. It must have 3 out of the 4 at least of uppercase, lowercase, number, and symbol. It can have all 4 if you want, but it has to only have 3. Once again, if you do that, if you don't meet that requirement, once again, it'll reject you and just say, can't do it, haven't done it. Other requirements are more about making your password more secure. You're not allowed to have your name in it, your PUID, your surname, Eurofins, your password can't be fins euro 123. You can't have sequential or identical numbers or letters, and it can't have any words. So why are we asking not to put any words in? Now we don't know if you put a word in. The system doesn't check for words, but that's the rule and that's what we're asking to follow. Why we don't put words in is because the easiest way to crack a password is what's called a dictionary attack. That's where it pretty much is what it sounds. The bad guy has a dictionary for every word in the English language, or in probably every language, and they just throw those passwords at your computer thousands of times a second. And if you've got a password like password 1 or Einstein 2012, like there's an example there, they'll find that, and they'll find that in a matter of seconds or minutes or hours, which means your account gets compromised, and then therefore Eurofins gets compromised. Symbol substitution for words is not also good either. So your password can't be password 1234 and you use double dollar signs instead of S's. Everybody knows about that, so that's so do the bad guys. So we ask you not to use those as well. Passwords must be different from the last 4 versions that you've used, and they do expire after 180 days. The KGD there says 90, but it's been updated to 180. So every 6 months you have to change your password, and your password has to be different for the last 4 passwords, so that means the last 2 years your passwords have to be different. So there's a lot of rules about the passwords there. You know, it has to be complex, it has to be long, it has to have all sorts of different symbols, can't have words, which means it's not easy to remember off the top of your head, which people's first response is, oh, that's too hard, or oh, I'll make it hard and I'll just write it down. Of course, writing it down makes it safe from a hacker in China or Russia, but it's not safe from someone walking past your computer, or a visitor walking past your computer and seeing what your password is. So we do ask you, please do not write your password down, but once we again come back to, well, how am I going to remember that password? Certainly in the meetings I've had where face-to-face doing this presentation, the moment I finish this little spiel, I see a lot of rolling eyes and slumped shoulders and, oh, I can't believe I have to do this. But actually it isn't as hard as it sounds, because we have a recommendation, and it comes up to 4.1. What is a good password? A good password is basically a mnemonic password that you can tell yourself a story that ends up with a password that is very complicated. So the fairly ordinary example there is Fred and Wilma like to have ham and eggs for dinner, and you end up with a password which is 6, 9, 11 characters long and completely uncrackable. A bad guy tries to crack that password and they'll be there for a million years. So that's what we're asking you to do. That's what we're asking you to think of before we come for your migration. And to be frank, if you've settled for a less secure password and we have migrated you, we'd probably ask you to change it to a more secure one. In the user guide, I've sent through quite a few examples. You can see on here, anniversary. I married my partner on the 23rd of May. That gives you 10 characters. And it's very easy to remember, and if you happen to be prone to forgetting your anniversary, well then you're 2 birds, 1 stone. You're not going to get in trouble with the wife. Affirmations, I will make today more successful than yesterday. If you're into positive thoughts or positive thinking, then that's something you can do. One suggestion is please don't make it a negative thing like I hate my freaking job, I want to quit, because you're going to be typing that 10 times a day, and that's not going to be a positive mindset when you get home. Goals, I aim to run a half marathon by Q4. That's not my goal, but it could be yours. Or hobbies, Sharon goes to netball training at 5 p.m. every Wednesday night. So there is a story you can tell yourself about yourself or about circumstances that makes it impossible to hack but easy for you to remember. The advantage of a password like this is let's say your password is, I like to go fishing every second Sunday in summer when it's hot, something like that. And you can write yourself a password reminder called phishing, and you can go and you put it on your computer. Phishing doesn't mean anything to anybody else, it doesn't give away your password, but for you it's, oh yeah, it's a phishing password. I like to go fishing every second Sunday in summer when it's hot. Another one probably might be your favourite song lyrics. Everybody's got a favourite song, you know word for word, just pick the opening verse or the second verse or the main chorus of your favourite song and type it out on your keyboard. So basically we're looking for a password that you don't even know what the actual characters are if you have to try and think of it. I don't know my characters off the top of my head. I have to tell myself my story every time. It's a story you know and you remember and is easy for you not to forget. And if you can use that story to help you in other ways, then good for you. Does anybody have any questions about that? Basically, I think it's an easy enough system that we really don't look for exceptions. We don't really tolerate any exceptions. If we do happen to find out you're using a crappy password, we will come back to you and ask you to change it. The question also comes up saying, oh, what happens if I forgot my password? I went on long maternity leave and I can't remember if it was about fishing or netball. You can come back to us and we can reset your password. We can't see your password, no one can. It's securely locked in our systems and no one can access it. So if you forget it, just let us know. We'll reset it for you and give you a one-time password. A one-time password is what it is. Where you type that password into Windows, it works one time, and then you'll get a password reminder request to set a new password. As 180 days approaches, you'll start getting reminders in your email and on your computer that your password is going to expire soon. It might be 10 days, then 5 days, then 3, then 2, then 1. If your password does happen to expire, let's say you go on maternity leave at 170 days, and you don't come back for 6 months, that's not a problem. If your password has reached that 180 day expiry and you try and log in, it'll just say your password has expired, please put in a new one. So you will be able to get in. And if you're not, just let us know and we can reset it for you. One of the requirements is if you put in the password 6 times wrong, it will lock you out of the account. Once again, just contact us and we'll help you and we'll unlock it and give you another one-time password. So basically that's your Eurofins password. We do strongly ask that you think of one before we come to you. So when we come to your migration, it's, oh yeah, I know what it's going to be, bang, 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 done. Everybody uses these passwords all the way through up IT hierarchy, all up to their C-level managers. So if the bosses can do it, we can do it. That gives us great security for your password, but next level of security, password security, is not having the same password for every system that you use. Eurofins is fairly good that most of the time your POD and password gets you into most things that you use that are Eurofins global services, like your DMS, your account, your email, your webmail, but your labware password or your gym's password or your other passwords, probably not dialed into that, so they need to be different passwords. There's not much point having one highly secure password if you go ahead then and use it across 30 different services, because it only takes one of those services to be compromised and your password is compromised. So a good example of that is the Sony PlayStation hack that happened a couple of years ago, the Apple hack with all the celebrity photos a couple of years ago as well. A lot of sites, most sites, end up getting hacked at some point and their password databases get leaked and sold or whatever. So we do ask you to make sure that you don't use the same password. Certainly you don't use your Eurofins password elsewhere. And the gold standard of password management is using a different password every time for every service, which means that your bank uses a different one and your Hotmail and your whatever. So it's not just your work, but your personal life is a recommendation we do for personal life, but work we obviously try and mandate that. But of course the question's up, well, I'm not going to remember 20 different passwords. That's impossible. So we have a tool for that. It's called a password vault. The password vault we've used for Eurofins is called KeyPass. Password vault is what it sounds like. It's a vault for your passwords. You just remember one master password and then you can get in and that'll store all your other passwords. The advantage of that is then you can use very high level passwords, and you can see on the diagram there, it recommends 20 characters for your password, which is completely uncrackable. That gets saved into KeyPass, it's copy and pasted into your website. Actually, I can bring up KeyPass for mine and show you how it works. If you have any other external systems that you need access to, whether it's a website, you're sorting out your phone bill for the company, or whether it's a local LIMS or it's a local purchasing system or anything, just let us know when we're doing your migration. We'll give you KeyPass. Once you're in KeyPass, you can see a bunch of my passwords for IT. You've got my username, password obviously is hidden, and a URL. So if I want to get into, let's say I buy a few things from different companies occasionally, if I want to go into SculpTech, I double click on SculpTech, it takes me to the page that I log in, and then I copy my username, and I copy my password and log into the login page. It's as simple as that. So you don't have to remember the password, and it's just as easy as almost typing it in because you just copy and paste. That's what Eurofins uses. Certainly for your personal life, as I mentioned before, I would service. There are plenty of other free password vaults around for personal use. All you have to do is just Google password vault and you'll find one. So we recommend it for your personal benefit to do it personally. We also effectively mandate it for Eurofins that we do need you to have different passwords for different services you use. If you don't use other services, well then, no problems. Any questions on that at all? No. All right, so once again, I talk fast, I know, and some of this is a lot of information, so if you have any questions later on, just talk to us. The The other part of your computer is talking about file storage. According to the user data storage policy, it's a data storage policy. It's talking about data storage as one of its principal goals. It does discuss about how we store our data and how we back it up. So on your work computer, there's a few different ways that Eurofins wants us to keep and store data. Starting from the top, the gold standard is Eurofins Business IT Solutions. So they are global software solutions stored in our data center in either Hamburg or one we'll build soon in Singapore. And they're, for example, a DMS, which is our document management system, and other services you probably haven't encountered yet, like CRM or D4, which is our quality system. They're the best form of storing our documents because they're accessible throughout all Eurofins, accessible by multiple entities and multiple sites. They're also the best backed up and the best managed. They've also got good version control, good document control, good access control. So if you have a document that you need to be sharing with your APAC manager or a different agro-science business on the other side of the world, or other examples of needing to share information with Eurofins staff, that's the best place to put it, certainly DMS. And you generally would ask that person, where can I save it on DMS? And that's where you put it. The next level down is file storage, which generally you guys have got and you've always had. Certainly on the Auckland site, you always had. Most sites with a file server, most sites have a file server if they're big enough. We're not changing that process at all. If you want to save a file for your use or your business, keep doing it. No changes there. The next stage down is individual data. So if you've got a laptop, then you can also save your files on your laptop in a particular file under My Documents, Eurofins data. If you've got a desktop, then you can save it into your individual data folder, which is stored on a file server. So these are generally, if it might be personal documents, it might be your, you're working on you're updating your resume, or hopefully not because you're leaving, but if you're updating your resume, or you're working on a draft document or a template document that you don't want shared yet, that's the place to put it. Many people don't bother using their individual data at all, data storage at all, but some people do. And it's there for your use, and when we migrate you, we'll show you where it is. Your personal data is also a location we save for you on your laptop or on your desktop for personal data, obviously. We don't back up that data, we're not responsible for that data, and to be honest, I don't know why you would save much data on a Eurofins computer that's personal, but certainly if you live off your laptop, you're sort of stuck with that sometimes. But yes, we don't back that up or manage it. It's your document, your data to worry about yourself. Basically, if it's not stored in any of those 4 locations, we don't manage it. We don't help back that up. So let's say you store it on your C drive, just on the C drive, or you store it under My Pictures, things like that. We don't take responsibility for managing that or backing that up. What we do back up is obviously the business IT solutions, because that's a global solution. We back up the file server. We also back up your individual data. If you're a desktop, then we back it up automatically because it's on the file server. If you're a laptop, then we have a backup process which we'll come to very quickly, and that helps keep that data safe. As I said, the personal data is not backed up and we're not responsible for that. So if you save all your family and baby photos on your personal data folder and your computer dies, I'm sorry, well that's not our problem. If you save it onto your individual data storage file server and something goes wrong, then yes, it is our problem to restore that. We also do save things on your desktop, by the way, so that part of the backup process also copies your desktop, so that is safe. So the backup process itself is managed by our widget. You will get a widget if you haven't been migrated yet, and if you've been migrated you would have seen it. This gives you a few handy links to contact us and information about your computer, which we often need. It allows you to run the backup scripts when you wanted to run the backup, basically, and it gives you some hyperlinks to Eurofins information and specific entity-specific hyperlinks, basically. So if there's a folder for your business or a shortcut or a URL for your business that you should have access to regularly, let us know and we can whack it on the widget pretty quickly and give everybody access to it. Yes, there's not much else I need to mention about the widget. The backup process itself runs when either you trigger the manual process, you can see in the middle of the widget there, it says click here to launch the backup script, or when you log into your computer, or when you turn it on. So most users will turn their computer on or off, once a week, day, once a fortnight. If you haven't done a restart or a re-log in for your computer in 2 weeks, you'll get an email reminder from me. Some of you may have already seen one of them, but we'll go into more detail on that when we go through the last checklists after your migration. Okay, so basically that's the PC part of the migration process. I haven't heard anybody asking questions, so I'm assuming everybody's okay. Okay, so the second part of it is the email address. Now most people we're talking to here have already got, some of the Auckland staff might not. We're moving to a global email address away from our local mail servers. So a couple of reasons for that. One is we're centralizing our mail into one primary site, which is in Hamburg, in our Eurofins High Availability Data Center. We call it EHAD. If we bring it all into one site, then it gives us economies of scale and economies of management. And the best security and management we've got in Eurofins is in EHAD, so that's the best place to store it. We're also moving to Eurofins.com mailboxes because corporate marketing wants us to be seen as a global player, basically. Yeah, it's nice to have a .com.au or .co.nz because you look like the bloke down the road or around the corner. But Eurofins.com, I guess they've decided that makes us look more like a big player and big time, more respectable, more trustable. So it's everybody gets a first name, last name at Eurofins.com. If you're unfortunate enough to have a doppelganger within Eurofins already, then what we do is give you a middle initial. So those who have ever received an email from me, you'll see my email is Andrew J. Cook, because there already was an Andrew. There are a couple of instances of that. I think there's one person in Auckland, and maybe there's another new one we just did who has that in their middle in their name. The other part of your emails, we give you an alias, which is your PUID. So mine would be Heiko at Eurofins.com. We do that for simplicity reasons. If someone needs to contact you, it's easy sometimes just to type in your PUID. It's also very useful for you if you have a long name, if you're sick of having to spell out Pengeli or Mani, then one way of giving your email address to someone easily is just to give them your PUID at Eurofins.com. If you have a long name, you're sick of filling out forms, it takes you half a day to fill out a form because your email's long, then just put your PUID at Eurofins.com. So there are some uses for it. If you find that useful to you, feel free to use it. Probably the biggest change we're making from our old mailboxes is that we have a mailbox cap. I don't think any other Eurofins entity previously had caps on their mailboxes. We do that simply because if we have 20,000 users and everybody has a massive mailbox, then that becomes unwieldy. So it's a fairly corporate standard approach to cap everybody's mailboxes. So we have a 1 gigabyte cap. That is in cap on all inbox and outbox, inbox and sent box folders. If the cap is reached, then you cannot send or receive any further emails. And basically that's it. If someone sends to you and it's full, then they'll get a bounce saying, sorry, this person can't receive emails. So it is a pretty severe cap, and we have to make it quite clear that it's your responsibility to make sure you don't reach that cap. Having said that, it's our responsibility to make sure you're aware of how to do it, how to make sure you don't get full. The simplest way, the tool we get, is to give you a little icon at the bottom of your screen. Now, if you don't have this on your Outlook, well, I don't have to spend too much explaining. You just go right-click on the bottom and you click on Quota Information. That'll tell you how much free space you've got on your mailbox. As it gets closer to being full, it goes yellow, then it goes red. You will get emails also from Microsoft saying your mailbox is nearly full, you need to do something about it. So there are quite a few tools that you can do to keep your mailbox empty. We have a tip on there to show a few ways to do it. Basically, you can set up auto-archiving, which automatically, when you push it, triggers an auto-archive of all your emails that have been around for longer than, say, 2 weeks. You can curate, of course, get rid of emails you don't need. You can selectively curate. We can help you out with that by having a large mail search folder here where every email with large attachments comes through, and you can delete it out if you want. That frees up space quickly. Excuse me. And we can help you with that process to make sure it's understood by everybody. If you're not comfortable with how you back up, talk to us and we'll help you again. When you're with your old email boxes, email accounts and all your old email, we will attach that to your computer in what's called a PST, which is effectively an offline archive mailbox. And that's where all your old .com.au or .co.nz emails will be kept. What you'll see then...
That's not counted to your cap.
No, that's right, no. Your old one can go up to a maximum of 50 gigabytes before it breaks out, and then we can give you another one. So no, there's no cap on that. So what you'll see is I've got my, if you can see on this, if you see my screen, I've got Andrew J. Cook at Eurofins.com. That's my primary mailbox. but also you'll find, where's my archive one? So I've got an archive one here, which is all my old mailboxes. So there's probably, I don't know, 15, 20 gig of mail in there now. So basically what we do for archiving is you go any email that's I don't need anymore, you can click and drag into your archive. Then that's just as accessible as it's ever been. If you need to find an email, let's say from Josh, and it's not in your primary mailbox, then all you need to do is click down here on try searching again in all mail items, and that will search your archive and your primary mailbox, and you'll find the email you want. So there's only one click more than what you've been used to in the past. Yes, the archiving can either be manual or you can set up automated process. Please talk to us if you're not sure when we actually do your migration. Your primary mail can be accessed through webmail, so on your phone or on hotel or over the internet, but your PST can't. It's on your computer and that's it. So don't move anything to your PST. You might need to reference later on if you're traveling. But basically, yes, that's the best way to keep your mailbox clean, is to move them into your PST. Any questions on that? So we then back up your PST to our file servers, so if your computer, you have to keep a copy of it. Email signatures, your signatures have to be managed by you. In some cases, different entities are automatically managed, but they have to be managed by you now. When we migrate you, we'll set you up the standard Eurofins email signature. It is pretty bland, but that's the way it is. If you need to update it, because you change your role, change your location, change your name, then please just make the simple changes necessary and don't add logos and pictures and fonts and unicorns and all sorts of stuff. Please don't. Just keep it as a standard signature as we leave it. Emails on mobile phones. Some of you will probably have a work phone or use emails on your phone. If you need to use email on your phone, get permission from your manager first, and then we'll set it up for you. We generally don't recommend putting it onto your private phone with your private account, because that's chewing up your data allowance, and that's work business, so really work should pay for it if you're going to do work business on your phone. But that's my opinion. It's not necessarily Eurofins' opinion. We either provide you with a mobile phone or you'll bring yours to the party. The solution we have at the moment, well, we don't have a solution at the moment. We used to have a solution called AirWatch, which would have a particular application running on your phone where we manage your mail. But we don't do that anymore. We simply install our Eurofins Mail on your default mail app, which is the Mail app on the iPhones, or the generic Gmail or other Samsung Mail on your phones, on your Android phones. If you are to leave Eurofins and take the phone with you, you need to come to us first and we'll wipe that mail. If you were to leave Eurofins and take your phone with you and we haven't removed the mail off your phone, our only option is to remotely trigger a factory wipe of your phone. So it pretty much just deletes everything on your phone and puts it back to the factory settings. So if it is your personal phone, you're using it for work reasons, A, please back it up, but B, make sure if you do leave, come to us and talk to us first before you do. Otherwise, we do have to wipe it. That's our only option. So that's basically the presentation. I've got a couple of FAQs based off questions asked in the past. How long does the migration take? Anywhere between half an hour to a couple of hours, depending on how complex your setup is. You don't need to be in front of the computer with us the whole time, but there will be parts of that where we do want you in front of the computer with us to type in your new password, check everything's okay. And it is, I understand, it is a time out of your day when we're all busy, but the quicker we get this done, the better. After migrating, you're having problems with email bounce back notifications. Certainly there are occasionally problems with your address book. We will address that for you. The other question I needed to mention was that for legacy domains, which would be agriresearch.com.au, eurofins.com.au and eurofins.co.nz, the moment we finish migrating an entity, and the time starts ticking on when we get rid of that domain. So when we've migrated the last person in NZ Labs, then eurofins.co.nz starts the 6-month timer before we get rid of that domain entirely. Now it's not going to be a simple, everything's working, then we switch it off and then all of a sudden chaos. We don't want to impact business operations, we don't want to impact the way your clients can't talk to us or the way our staff talk to us. What we'll do is we'll progressively move those old domain emails into a process that we manage, where we remind you and remind the customer that your email is about to be expired. At the moment we haven't gotten rid of any old domains because they're still within that 6-month window for every entity. but it is important that we do get rid of those old ones because it makes managing our emails a lot more complicated. One really important part of that is if we're going to get rid of your old domains within 6 months, and it's really critical that you change any reference to your old email address on any information you have, whether that's your business cards, flyers, websites, Yellow Pages links, LinkedIn account, personal links, personal usage, or anything like that. So the moment we migrate you to .com, please get rid of any links to your old accounts. The last thing you want is for your business card to still be floating around there in 6 months' time with your old email address, because once we cut off the old one, it'll be a hard bounce and that person can't get onto you. So we don't want your old address floating around. The other part of that is if you use your work email for logins, whether that's work logins or personal logins on URLs generally, people do it. You need to change that pretty quickly as well, because 2 years down the track you forget your password. Well, the only way to retrieve your password is an email to your email address, and if that's not been updated, then you're never going to get that reminder and you're locked out forever. So yes, please do update all your accounts and any paperwork or anything that refers to your old email address as quickly as possible. Any questions about that? No, and certainly for the AgResearch people, you might have been seeing me .com.au email addresses where we're in that process of managing that to a close at the moment, and it seems to be working okay. If you have any other questions during the process, after the process, before the process, please come to us and let us know. Come to your supervisor, let them know. We tend to try and migrate supervisors and managers first so they can make sure they understand the process and answer any of your questions. So all your supervisors should have already been migrated. But yes, as I said, Keith and David can help you in Auckland. Any of us can help you in Australia, and anybody can help you anywhere in our region. So if you have any concerns, fears, issues, problems, please don't let them stew. Please just get onto us and we'll fix it. We have maybe 5% of users come in that run into some problems during the migration process, and maybe 1% have problems that keep going for maybe a week or two, but we do end up stomping on every problem. Basically that's it. I've banged on long enough. If anybody has any questions now, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm assuming everybody's okay. So what I'll do is I'll pretty much end the call now. David and Keith will be around to migrate you hopefully soon if they haven't already in Auckland, and hopefully the process goes smoothly. But as I said, talk to us if you don't have a good experience. So thank you very much, and I'll leave it at that.